All right, you are good to rock and roll. So everybody, thank you for coming to the Lamasco Microgallery community reception. Hope you enjoy the food and the community here. And the goal of this space is to bring artists, not only locally, regionally, and internationally, to the Evansville space, but so we can build community and learn more about different forms of art, different topics, different themes. But what I'm really excited for is that we have Megan Thorne, who got her degree at the University of Southern Indiana. She's exhibited cross country, and she currently now works at in Duluth, Minnesota, as a photographer for Maurice. So, Megan, I'll let you tell more about who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So to say, this is so funny. It's like taking me back to like COVID, because my last artist talk that I did was literally in 2020, and I was like talking to like a screen, and so I was like, man, this is like kind of funny. But yeah, so hi, I'm Megan. Like Tori said, I currently reside in Duluth, Minnesota as of 4 months ago. So I was in Evansville for quite some time before that, but I did move for my job, and so far I've been absolutely loving it up here. But prior to Maurice's, I was a photographer for Shoe Carnival, so kind of got more into that like commercial space. But my degree, I kind of focused a lot more on fine art and really had a passion for fine art photography. And that's what I started like doing exhibitions. And then I also was very fortunate, and I received the Ephraimson Bridge Year Fellowship my senior year of college. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but just a quick rundown. It gives you basically a lump sum of money to produce a body of work for a whole year while student teaching at the university. And then you basically get to fill the McCutcheon Pace galleries with your work. And it was very daunting to do during COVID, but we made it work. And I also, I think that was when I kind of started working with Tori a little bit more too. So that was another beautiful thing that came from that. But yeah, I've worked in different galleries, kind of didn't really fully know which direction I wanted to go into. And I found out that why pick between corporate and fine art when you can just do both? So it's kind of a little bit about me. But yeah, I'm very passionate, usually in my fine art works, about kind of taking my corporate knowledge of what I don't like, I guess, about corporate, and putting that into my work. So I've focused a lot on like women's rights and feminism and women in the workplace, and kind of what that looks like, what that means, women's struggles. Definitely a feminist artist over here. Big idols for sure, like Judy Chicago. So I feel like no shock. But yeah, I absolutely just loved, kind of diving into that world. And what is the biggest thing that people I feel like associate with being female is fashion. And so I remember, if you guys have read, actually I talk about this a little bit, I think in my artist statement or something, but I was actually coming back from a photo shoot I was just doing with a former coworker. And we were talking, and we were like, wow, like what do these companies do with like all of the clothes and shoes that like they just don't sell? And she actually was on the merchandising side of everything. And she was like, well, I can tell you, like, it's not an answer that you're going to want to hear. And a lot of it kind of goes in the trash. Sometimes some companies will donate it. Maurice's actually will give them a shout out. They're phenomenal about that. They donate thousands of pairs of jeans that we don't sell in stores every year to local like children clubs and everything. So kids have back to school clothes. So like they're very good at, not all companies aren't very good about it. But, I know for us, when I did work at Shoe Carnival, we would have just one shoe as a sample. Well, you can't just give one shoe to somebody and be like, here you go. That's not really gonna work out. So unfortunately, like a lot of that stuff does go in landfills. And I don't know, I was really upset by this knowledge. And I was like, man, like I'm angry about that. And, I think especially in my generation, we are very passionate about global warming and climate change, and like, the earth is dying basically. And so I was thinking, it's really hard, just as your own person to like, well, how can I help that? Like, I can recycle all day, but like, is that really, you don't always feel like you're really impacting that enough. And so I did a lot of research, lots and lots and lots of research, and came across the term fast fashion. And obviously, I think a lot of us can admit to doing fast fashion or contributing to fast fashion. You have an event to go to and you're like, oh, I hate everything in my closet. I'm just going to go buy this dress. But then you only wear that dress for one night and then it sits and then you never wear it again. And you're like, well, now I just don't know what to do with it. Like, it's out of fashion now. Like, it sucks. So then we just donate it, or some people just toss it, and then it ends up in the landfills. And if you've seen my little magazine that I made for this, you'll notice that it's actually quite a lot that ends up in the landfills. And it's an extortionate amount. There's just thousands of pounds of clothes that are just sitting in these random places across our country and across the world that, like, what do we do with it? And it uses so much of our water, so much of our resources. And we are kind of all contributing to this. And, with the big rise of Shein and Temu, or I don't know, I saw that commercial and I have no idea how to say it. But, they're big contributors. They're cheap and they're easy and they're constantly on your fingertips. I mean, you can't even go on Facebook or Instagram or even Google search without one of those popping up and being like, you need these $8 shoes. And they're cute. So people are like, yeah, I do. But, and like I said, I was contributing to this as well. And so I started thinking for myself and I was like, well, how can I like stop being a part of this problem? And I came up to this idea that they were saying, with fast fashion, you actually can make a huge difference just by yourself. So, and there's so many different ways that you can contribute to this. It's like by, upcycling your clothing. If you don't like a jacket, like maybe, find an artist friend who knows how to sew and, they can do some embroidery, or like, find someone that knows how to do like patches or knows how to paint really well. And now you have a new piece of clothing. Or, I know one that I use all the time is I try not to buy something that like I don't think I will wear more than 30 times. That's a huge one. You can still shop at Target. You can still shop at Walmart. You can shop anywhere you want. As long as you are buying something that you're going to wear 30 to 50 times, that's going to save so much water and so much of our resources. And it's kind of crazy. I can't remember the number. I should have written it down. The numbers were off the top of my head, but just one person doing that actually makes a pretty significant impact. And not shopping those sites makes a huge impact, because if they're not getting money, they can't run. So that's kind of like a big thing for me, is I was like, man, like I really want to like feel like I'm doing something to make a difference here. And I started realizing, like it was affecting like a lot of my friends too. And they were like, yeah, like I know it's bad, but like I still like shop Shein because like I can't afford to shop sustainable. And it's like, sure, but you can shop and think to yourself, am I going to wear this 30 times or not? That doesn't cost any more money. That's something that literally anybody can do at Goodwill or at, Hermes. Like there's no, you can do that like literally wherever you are shopping. And that is the biggest contributor. And so I started doing that a couple years ago, and I ended up realizing I had so many clothes in my closet, and I was like, I really want to do something with this. So I got my friend back who had modeled for me and told me, who basically started this whole thing. And I was like, I have this crazy idea. And I was like, let's go to the Washington Square Mall, which is like basically abandoned. And I'm going to throw all of my clothes on the very dirty floor there. And I'm going to make you model with it. And then that wasn't enough. So then I reached out to my great friend, Tori. And I was like, hey, I need your collection of all these really expensive boxes so I can take them to the grungy, gross mall and use them. And of course, for art, Tori was like, absolutely. So they all had pretty weird looks while doing that. But I wanted it to have this very like vintagey kind of, not like apocalyptic, but just this like very weird feeling of like, oh, you know, we are kind of becoming, the consumer is becoming consumed essentially. And that kind of led to its own little exhibition that I ended up doing for USI. And I made some tote bags and printed these images out for like pretty big, had some clothes like all over the floor. I'm a big installation artist, by the way. Love doing that stuff. But then I don't know, it kind of dropped off for a minute, and I was like, I feel like there's more I could be doing with this. I feel like there's more I want to be doing with this. And then Tori approached me and was like, hey, look, I'm doing this super awesome micro gallery. And I was like, ooh, okay. And so I knew that I wanted to like kind of build off of that work. And then I was just messing around in Photoshop, and quite literally how this all happened. And I was like, I wonder, because I was thinking like, how can I make a box like feel like an exhibition? And I was like, I'm going to build like an exhibition within this space. And so I started messing around with things, and I was like, I'm going to create, you know, like kind of like a scene, like a story within this box. And I ended up taking images from that photo shoot, and through Photoshop, I was kind of displaying them on walls as if you would see if you were walking into a gallery. And then like I said, I love the installations. So that wasn't enough. So then I told Tori, and I was like, you know, what if I make some clothes out of clay? And, you know, in the time, I really did not know. I was like, is this going to look weird? Is this going to look cool? Like, I have no clue. And we sat at her kitchen table, and we were just, you know, throwing these pieces of clay. And I was like, I kind of really love this. Like, it's this really weird, like, kind of tangible piece that we can kind of really see, you know, in this exhibition that, like, we are able to interact with, because it does look like a landfill of just clothing. So that was kind of a different thing for me. Usually my mediums tend to be just photography or printing very large. That's like kind of my thing. So this was like a really interesting experience for me to go very small, because my last exhibition, I had an 11 by 7 foot long photo. So we really went smaller. But I really loved having to like kind of try that out and experience that. And I feel like that really helped me as an artist kind of see the different ways that I can kind of incorporate my art for different spaces. So that was pretty cool too. But I don't know. It's been a really a fun experience, and I think that, you know, it is really important to have these events in our community because, you know, being an art major at USI, I know when I was there, I felt like I didn't have a whole lot to go off of, and now I feel like there's, like, you know, Tori's doing so much even with this that it allows people to feel more, you know, passionate, because they're like, oh wow, like my community cares. And it's hard to be an artist, I think, you know, and it's like, even with this, so before I created this work, I want to say, because I finished my exhibition in 2021, I don't think I created anything for about a year and a half. And I was like, gosh, like, why can't I create something? Like, why am I not feeling passionate? And we're really hard on ourselves as artists. And so sometimes it's nice to get into a community of people that is like, yeah, I have creative block too. Like, I haven't created anything either. Like, maybe let's collaborate and create something together. And, you know, basically that's kind of what happened with this. I mean, for that photo shoot I was talking about, you know, I had one of my former coworkers, he helped kind of make sure that no one tried to steal our equipment at the mall. It was so cute. We even had like this little girl who, she like loves photography, and she was like, can I just like watch what you guys are doing? And it was so sweet. And we were like, yeah, sure. Like, you know, we were telling her why we were doing stuff, like why we were changing the lights. And it's stuff like that. Like, you know, I feel like that's something that she'll be like, wow, like that was really cool. Like, I want to do photography now, or I want to get into the arts. Because if they're not going to experience it, then how are, you know, they're not going to know. So that's kind of a tangent that just went on, but art's important. But I am very fortunate that I am able to do both corporate, you know, commercial style and fine art. I just knew that I wasn't going to be happy just doing one or the other because I tried and I still missed the other. So this kind of was like the perfect harmony for me, and I'm pretty fortunate. So that's my little spiel. But yeah.
And so if anybody has any questions for Megan, I can move out and then you're welcome to sit in front of the hot seat and ask any questions.
I'm not going to move into the hot seat, but I do have a question. I was thinking as you were talking about clothes being discarded. For a while now, I've seen ads for something called Rent the Runway, which I don't know any of the details of it, but it makes sense to me that you would rent something for a month and then turn it back in and then do it again and get other things that are interesting. And it made me, I was thinking of that as you were talking about the incredible waste that we generate in this country. And I think hopefully things like that will take off.
Yeah, absolutely. Rent the Runway is great. I definitely think I haven't personally used it. I almost did the other day for an event, but then I ended up not needing to. But yeah, I think that one is definitely, I wish people would, kind of do more things like that. I'm supposed to be getting married in November. My friends and I keep joking and we're like, why is there not a place where you can just like rent bridesmaid dresses or like rent wedding dresses? Like, this is so frustrating. So yeah, there definitely, I hope that there will be more. I think we just have such a strong sense of consumer culture and like a lackadaisical feeling of just like, oh, well, when we're just tossing clothes aside, that it's going to take some rewiring for people to get on board. But I'm glad that you're seeing ads for that, though. That means that it's getting out there, which is great.
And something you said too sounds like a great book title, The Consumed Consumer.
Yeah.
I
like that too.
Yeah,
I thought that was good. Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's happening.
No.
You have to come around. Come around
Oh, no wonder. Here, I thought my head was in the way.
here.
Okay.
Watch the cord. Yeah, watch the.
Mine isn't so much a question as just another addition to your wearing it 30 to 50 times. I grew up with a very frugal mother, and I was taught that you parsed out every item you bought and said, how many times can I wear this? So what will it cost me each time? Trying to get it down to a nickel or a penny a time.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so, yeah, so
I like that.
That's cool. That's fun.
so every single thing you wear, it's not how many times can I wear it, but how much will it cost me if I only wear it once? How much will it cost me if I wear it 50 times?
I
And
like
same
that.
with shoes, everything. Furniture, the whole life was like that.
Wow.
Let's see, when we ran out of money and she had to break our piggy banks to get money to go pay the mortgage, she said, would come home and say, you own this brick. So we were part owners in the house. So, just make it real, make it real.
Wow. That's awesome.
Smart woman.
Yeah.
That's
Ahead of her
nice.
time. That's awesome.
I don't have so much a question either, but I don't know if you've been following Fashion Revolution. They're a global climate activist for fashion, being conscious about fashion. So I just got onboarded with being their representative for Indiana.
Oh, wow.
And April 20th I think it was 2013. It was Rana Plaza in Bangladesh, and over 1,100 people died that day. Mostly women and children. They were all garment workers. And the building owner knew well in advance that it was a problem, but he kept building on top of the building. And so it collapsed. So in Evansville, I am going to hold a free Mend in Public Day at Encounter Church. So you start thinking about repairing what you have. So go, I always say shop your closet is my tagline. Shop your closet, come to Encounter Church on April 20th between 11 and 1. And even if you don't know how to sew, I'll help you with that. All the supplies will be provided. There'll be other people in the community. Hopefully Dawn can help with that. Just a couple days before you leave for Europe. No problem. But it's really been great just sitting in on the meetings monthly and hearing from all ages, all backgrounds, including scientists. It is the coolest thing. So if you would be interested in being an ambassador in Duluth, Minnesota, check into it. It's really just because you're already doing it naturally. And that for me, it's good sense because I'm already doing that anyway. So why do I not want to be backed by a global group and just be on board with their dates and what they're doing?
That sounds amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I will definitely, I would love to get involved with that.
What's it called?
It's called Fashion Revolution. And I found an ad on, it was something scrolling in my Instagram feed. So it is a global activist group, but it's Fashion Rev USA on Instagram. But it's actually everywhere. It's all over the globe because it's such a global climate concern.
It is, yes.
Yeah. So right now I'm the only one in Indiana representing. If anybody else wants to come on board, that would be great too.
That sounds so cool.
Are you familiar with the fast fashion wasteland in the Atacama Desert?
Yeah.
It's disgusting. And
Yeah.
Read that the fast fashion industry is now the most second polluting industry, right behind big oil.
Ooh, really?
So can you define that a little
And
more
big
for
oil
those
makes-
who don't know what the movement is?
Most of the fashion's made of oil based.
Well, it's made of
products.
oil and it requires so many petrochemicals to create the fabric and the processing of the fabric and dyes that it is immensely polluting. The fabrics do not biodegrade
Right.
because so much of it is a microfiber or they're petrochemical. And last statistic I read, and please correct me if I'm wrong, a pair of fast fashion jeans, they think now takes close to 2,000 gallons of water.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
I've had a whole show on denim, and it is one of the worst polluters of all, especially when you add the stretch jeans to it, because they can't. But just the dyes alone affect the water so much, and the more you wash it, the jeans come out. All of the jeans start as dark blue, and they have to wash them and use acids to get them lighter. So you buy a light one and you think, oh, it's not as much blue. Well, it's all been taken out. And the machines that they use to get the holes in it and make it look, what's the name?
Distress.
Yeah. They distress the whole planet. So it's, that's my thing. I use all recycled and reclaimed fabric and create art out of it. So
That's amazing. I know. Yeah, I just went to the aquarium up here, and we're like, for those that may not know, the large bustling city of Duluth, we're right on Lake Superior. So they're pretty environmentally conscious up here because we have to take care of our lake, we have to take care of our water. And I was at the aquarium, and there was actually like a whole section about like how much water it takes to make denim, and like what does that look like compared to making like even like a car or a phone, and it's crazy. And so that's a huge one, and it's crazy too because it's like like we said, like this is the second largest contributor to climate change and problems, but yet it's almost, in my opinion, one of the easiest ones that we as a people can solve, like by just not doing it. Like it's not even the act of like, I know a lot of people are like, well, with recycling, like you never know which one you can recycle and which one you can't. And then some places you can't recycle and some places you can. And, you know, I understand that part of it, but with this, it's like, just don't support it. Like, just don't support these fast fashion companies, and you're already making an impact. Like, it's not really that hard. It's just, you know, you have to make a conscious effort to maybe not be up with the trends for a season. And why is that so bad, you know? But I think it's like, but we're in such a problem right now because we are in the age of influencer culture. So you have people like, you know, especially like my generation and younger are really getting affected by it. By, you know, anytime we're on social media or TikTok now, it's just people constantly being like, you need this and you need this, and if you want to look like me, you need this, and if you want to, you know, be the coolest person, like, you need to get these shoes. And it does affect you. And, you know, I'm not innocent in that. I'll be like, oh, I really do want those shoes now. Like, I want to, you know, I want to be cool. But, you know, at the end of the day, though, you know, it's like, do you need it? Like, do you really, you know, are you going to wear them? Like, what if they aren't fashionable again in 3 months? Are you still going to wear them? You know? So I think that's a huge problem, is really influencer culture, I think, is making it 10 times worse. But because you have these people that just have a massive cult following. But it also kind of starts with them too. It's like, well, if they told you to start like not buying from these places, would you not? So that's an interesting thought too.
I've got a question. I don't know if, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, perfect, good. So I appreciate all that you shared, and even just listening to the conversation that's taken place. Kind of from the other side of it, we have a lot of clothes in our home, and not because we buy a lot of clothes, but because we have a lot of people in our home, and we don't keep up with the trends because we live on a budget. But at the end of the day, we have clothes. I have 4 kids, so they get passed down. So, you know, you shared a lot of your insight about how to prevent, like, just kind of the cycles of consumerism that create this problem. On the other side of it, and I've already heard a few great options, like mending my clothes, which I don't know how to do.
I'll teach you.
There you go. I need to learn. But like, what are the ways to, you know, once something's been passed down from 4 kids and it's worn and it is no longer like like nobody wants it, nobody needs it. Like, what do we do with it? I've seen, you know, like in the nonprofit world, like what happens with clothing during like relief efforts, and you've seen some of the horror stories of like what happens to the stuff that you donate to different clothing places. Like, what are some of the responsible ways, once a piece has come to the end of its life, that we could handle it?
I will say, for me personally, so I remember my mom actually, so when my dad would have like all of his old work shirts and they would like, he like just could not wear them to work anymore. She would actually take scissors and she would cut scraps, and then she would then use them as towels for like cleaning the bathroom or cleaning up the kitchen or cleaning the car. And then she would use it so many times for that. And then by that point, you know, I mean, it's practically disintegrating. So, you know, there really is nothing else left of it. But that's another good way, I think, to try and get some use, especially if it's like a cotton shirt or something. That actually works really well for like a towel. But that is a good point. I do think that it is hard to find places to even like kind of, because they have for shoes you can send, actually there's a company, it's like something, I think Soul Shoes for Soul, I don't know, something soles, but when your shoes are like cannot be worn by anybody anymore, you can actually send them to this company and they will responsibly recycle them, and then basically they'll get turned into new shoes, and they recycle like the rubber, they take them all apart. And I know they do that for shoes, but for clothing it is a lot harder. To my knowledge, I know of a couple things, like I know there's like a couple places where you can donate clothing scraps, and sometimes people will kind of like repurpose it if they're making, I don't know, like what, you know, craft people are like trying, like, oh, I want to try and sew something on this. but you can kind of send off scraps. But that's a very good question. Honestly, I'm actually not 100% sure where you can, but I do know there is one for shoes and there is one for denim. You can actually recycle denim. I think it's H&M too, that you can bring or ship some, like if you have clothes, you can ship them to H&M and then they will recycle your old clothes. So I don't know how respectable that is, but I've done it before. So I had a couple clothes and I was like, I don't know what to do with this. And then I kind of took in a bag and they're like, okay, like, and then you get like 5% off or something. And they say that they'll recycle your clothes for you. But it's a good question. I'll have to look into that myself.
Is that a post-COVID process that they do for H&M?
I believe they are still.
Yeah, they did it before.
Yeah, they did it before. I'm not sure I think Levi's does denim now. I think you can donate denim to them and maybe no, I don't think it's Abercrombie, but I think Levi's takes old denim as well.
Some bigger towns, I know when I lived in Bethlehem, PA, at the recycling center, they had specific textile recycling.
Really?
Yeah. And maybe that's something I can look into for Evansville. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it entails a lot of upkeep, but a lot of times when people are upcycling, it also creates jobs versus throwing things away.
Yeah.
So, it's a possibility. There are a lot of companies that are pretending to be very environmentally free, conscious, and I think we have to be really careful about that. It's called greenwashing, and they're pretending to be all about the environment, and they are not. And so, it's for myself too. What I want to learn: how do I look up? If let's say I'm going to buy a new pair of pants or whatever it is, I really now going forward in the future, I want to look up that company and see how responsible they are. Mm-hmm. And like last night, there is a company called Cabby Clothing. There are a lot of women my age. They have these home shows, trunk shows. They're very expensive clothing. But I know for a fact, the missions that they stand behind are exactly who they're hurting, who are the garment workers. And it's very upsetting for me because I have a lot of friends that they're either reps for the company, they buy from the company. So, I'm getting more active in being conscious about the climate as it is related to fashion. And I'm not going to be going after people, but I think people will need to be educated a little bit better. And the greenwashing that goes on it will make your head spin. Eileen Fisher is probably the very best company. She's been doing it since the 70s. You can buy any amount of clothing from Eileen Fisher from any year, bring it back to her store, and those little scraps that you're talking about in your family, they're making amazing wall hangings out of them. They have a lab store in Irving, New York. So it's, and that is what Dawn does.
I will jump into, I too grew up in a very, very frugal family. Mm-hmm. And I had an aunt that would use old clothing and she would, and I don't even know the process. I was a kid, so I don't know what she did, but she tore it into strips and she made braided rugs.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's braided rugs and pot holders.
Like
and you can tear things, you can tear t-shirts up and use them to hold your tomato vines and those kinds of things instead of going back. Yeah.
Planted my first tomato. I ended up with my husband's old t-shirt.
And then to top it off, when it gets to be those shreds that you don't know what to do, if it's 100% whatever cotton, you can bury it and it will totally disintegrate. So you don't have to.
There's a lot of farmers that will take some stuff because it helps create.
Yeah. Now, and the other thing is,
that I didn't know.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, if you wearing jeans, don't wash them as much. People would go out like, oh, I'm going out on a date, I'm going dancing, and I get sweaty, so oh my gosh, I have to wash them. Don't let them air out, or if they're really sweaty, my daughter is a costumer for ballets and operas, you can't just go wash those things and
Yeah.
then plop. But they sure get sweaty and they have to share costumes. So what do? She was charged to go into the liquor store and buy cheap vodka. She had to go and buy gallons of vodka, and then a few weeks later she'd be back and be, whoa, hello. but and you can dilute it depending how it and you spray it. It will kill all the germs and it will be fine. So
Or
if you
freeze
have
them.
Or freeze them.
freeze them. But if you don't have a big freezer, you don't want to put your smelly jeans in it.
If you live on Lake Superior.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm outside and I'm good.
Yes.
They'll be
True.
very quickly.
But the more frequently you wash them, the more frequently the dyes go and the fabrics disintegrate more quickly, especially if you put them in the dryer too.
Yeah.
If you hang things up to dry, you're not going to be getting as many microfibers and stuff into washing gets microfibers into the system, and everybody's got microfibers in them. If we're wondering why people are having fertility problems, other problems in life because of stuff that's going in you, from fish that get it in the water, from food that gets eaten, it's all those microfiber plastics are all going into us. So try as you can just to not wash as much, hang them up to air dry, wear a shirt, just hang it up, squirt the armpits a bit with the vodka.
I even say
cheapest kind, not the good stuff. I'm not saying
some of the labels I printed in the clothing that I designed, I have put below my label or on the label, wear, wash. It doesn't have to be
Washed.
just wear, wash. Wear it twice, then wash it.
Absolutely.
If you can convince everybody in this room to do that, we've saved a lot right here.
Yeah.
I mean, my shows, I changed one of my best friends' mind. She goes, oh my gosh, I always wear it and drop it, wear it and wash it. And now she says, I think about it and wash it less. She goes, can't all the way, but we got there.
Yeah.
It's a little message.
Small
you make
change is
small
good.
changes everywhere.
Everyone does a small change.
Right.
That's a big change. I know it was interesting. I got a pair of jeans from Abercrombie and Fitch, and on there was a little biodegradable tag on there, and it was like, wash me every 2 weeks. You do not need to wash me every day or something. And I was like, I feel like that's a good thing to call out, is by, that way people are like, oh, I only have to wash this, because they may not know.
Yeah. And they'll last longer.
Yeah.
You'll get more wear out of them. So it costs less per wear.
That is true.
I have to tell you that one of the pieces that Tori put out to market this event said, you are what you wear. And I responded to her and said, I'm a little nervous about that because I wear some of the rattiest stuff around the house that's decades old. And now I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Champion.
That's so funny.
One of the things with fast fashion as well is the fabrics do not survive the washing multiple times.
Right.
And the seams are so poorly done.
Yep.
They're literally falling apart after just a couple, 3 wearings.
Yeah.
People do not understand the concept of buying a quality garment anymore to be able to look at a seam, see how it is finished, see if it's going to hold up, look at the fiber content of the fabric to see how to take care of it. Does this fit into my life? And is this going to last more than 6 months?
Yeah.
And that quality does cost more money. I mean, I have a friend of mine who is literally, she's wearing a pair of Doc Martens that her mom wore in the 70s. And they're still they look like they're just brand new, because Doc Martens, you're going to spend a lot more money, maybe a couple $100 for a pair of boots, but your grandkid could probably wear them. So, it's that's a huge point too, is sometimes you do need to spend a little bit more. And even too, what I've told some of my friends because I feel like every single time they'll get something new, and I'm like, oh, like where'd you get that? That's cute. And they're like, I can't tell you. And I'm like, oh, you got it from Shein. Okay, cool. But you know, and I try to tell them too. I'm like, you know, even if it's from a standpoint of like you just like for some reason don't care about the planet, you know, care about the workers. You know, like that. You know, there's just a documentary that they just put out all about, you know, Shein's workers and what their lives is like and like the critical conditions that they're working in. So it's like if you don't care about the planet, at least care about some people. Like, you know, you're allowing them to allow sweatshops essentially. So, you know, that's an even bigger part of fast fashion. I mean, even so many big names. I mean, if you do, I remember one time my friend and I did some research on companies that have used sweatshops, and I mean, it's a lot, you know. Nike got in big trouble for it, you know, maybe like a decade ago. I don't remember, but you know, they used it. They might still, and that's the thing too, is like what we were saying about greenwashing. You know, these companies have gotten very good about hiding things and calling things different things, so that way they can kind of get away. I mean, if you look at Shein's website, they literally have a whole section, same with Temu, about like, oh, this is how we're being environmentally friendly. But if you read between the lines, it's like that actually does not check out what you're saying. Like and there's a website, actually, I cannot 100% remember what it is, but there's a website that does kind of debunk like what certain websites are saying, and you can look it up. If you just type in like a brand and then type in like their like true sustainability measures or whatever, like you should probably be able to find it. But for most companies, you can find if they're actually doing what they're saying that they're doing.
Well, the crazy thing is about Shein too, I don't know if I'm saying that right or not, but
who knows?
they will hire an independent fashion designer like myself. They'll run a contest. Whoever wins best design gets paid $1,500, $2,000 for your beautiful design, but then they're going to produce it so horribly, fast fashion way. And I heard about this in Indy through our fashion community there, about several of the younger designers. They were so excited, like they were really hoping they got, you know, they won. And I'm just like, oh no. I mean, if you have any type of streaming services, you can look up Lululemon and a lot of the other people, or True Cost is really the best one out there. There is no such thing as a $5 t-shirt. Mm-hmm. Somebody paid a price somewhere along the line for the $5 t-shirt that you're seeing. Absolutely. So if you want to get educated, you can do that rather quickly every night of the week through some streaming service. There is documentaries out there just like you were talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Timo is supposed to be, from what I've read, they're like when Walmart comes into a place, they usually end up running out the small shops. Mm-hmm. Well, Temu is trying to run out globally so that they can get, so they want to cut everybody low. It's like the lost leaders in grocery stores. They will sell at a really cheap price in order to knock everybody else out of the market. So
it's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Temu and Shein or Shein,
right?
The pronunciations are both, from what I've read, being supported by the Chinese government.
Yes.
That's why they can do this.
Yeah.
Also, it comes back to, we have a problem with our tariff agreements. The de minimis portion of the 1938 Act, it's gotten raised continually over the decades, and now these companies can send in $800 worth of goods per address per day and pay 0 tariffs whatsoever.
Which is why they don't want to send it to a store, they want to send it to
They want to send them to your homes.
That's
So
right.
every day,
Amazon.
$800
Yeah.
you can spend, and they will pay no tariffs on that.
Gosh. Yeah, it's so sad.
Raised from 200 to 800
So
back in
overwhelming.
2015, as I recall.
Everything you do makes a difference.
It's terrible, and it's creepy too, because it's like, you know, you have to kind of, I mean, you have some people that know the facts, but then still contribute to it. And so that, I think, is, you know, because it's like I was watching this documentary and it was of this lady, and it was about Shein, and they actually ripped her off. They stole her design. They didn't pay her anything, and she was on the app and was like, I designed this. Like, this is my property. And she sued them, rightfully so. A lot of artists have been suing them. But it's still, like she was saying, like the problem is you still can't get people to stop. So it's like, at what point, like when the earth is on fire, like is that when you'll stop? Because there's a burning pile of clothes in the desert that's currently on fire. So it's like, you know, is that not, at what point is it enough? And I think that was, for me, that's kind of like why I did want to create like an installation and exhibit like this, because, you know, it has to be talked about more, and people like need to understand that it's a problem that we can solve. It's a problem that is an easy problem to solve, you know, just by, I mean, businesses, you know, they go out of business if you don't use them. So it's like, support the small businesses, support your friends, and don't support these terrible, terrible companies. Like, it's not rocket science, but unfortunately, I think that's what we're up against as well.
One thing too, we've gotten so into the mindset of more is more is more. If you go back, well, let's see, I'm getting closer to 60 each day. So if you go back 2 generations from me, the average person did not need a walk-in closet, nor did the house have them.
Yeah.
They had their entire wardrobe, sometimes the entire couple, was in an armoire. You know,
True,
one
right.
Sunday dress,
Yep.
one suit,
Yep.
and married, buried, everything in it.
Yep.
You know, we didn't need 75 tops. And yeah, yes, I'm the pot calling the kettle beige on this one because I've got more clothes than I have. I also do try to buy quality and it lasts.
Yeah. I'm still wearing some of my daughter's. She's a much bigger girl than I am. And so I'm still wearing clothes from her when she was 11. She's 37, 38 now. And I'm still wearing some of my mother's clothes, who she died 8 years ago. Those clothes were pretty worn when I got them. I know she, and I'm still wearing, I mean, I'll just wear anything and just either redo it, change it. And I'm making those things cost fractions of a penny. But the other thing is, if you buy good quality, and my mother
Right.
taught me that, you may own, and also living in Europe taught me that. People wore the same things, but boy, quality
Yep.
clothes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you wear a wool skirt and you wear that forever.
Right.
And it's, you know, it's made to last, and it always looks good. You buy classic clothes, not fad and fast fashion are really terrible.
And in Europe, to his point, exactly. I love that you said that. I'd never thought about it that way. But in Europe, their closets are small.
It's tiny.
Yeah.
Or they have it built in and use an armoire.
Yeah.
That's why they built
Yeah.
it first.
Yeah.
When we were staying in London extensively, my mother had to convert a bedroom into a closet.
Yeah, they
Still
don't have
have it.
closets in England. They have, yeah, they do not have built-in closets over there. You definitely have to have like a little thing for your clothes, unless you make one. But
Right.
And it does get back to there again, buying quality and taking that wool skirt that you were talking about, that say you bought in 95. It's a classic style. It's never going away as long as you take care of it.
Yeah.
I still have a coat from 1984, I think, that I bought abroad. And miraculously, I can still get it. But it was a quality piece. And it was a classic style. It's never going away.
Right.
So,
And one of the funnest things too with talking about fashion is Mike and I went on a little antique journey where I found a bunch of Dion jackets from the 60s.
Oh my
Bought
gosh, that's
them
funny.
up, they still fit.
That's
and,
funny.
It's just nice to see that type of quality, the type of fashion, the stitch lines too, which Mike taught me a lot about. And yeah, still those jackets to this day, so they're still making their way. 60 years later? I mean, they still look
Well,
like
it
they
also
just
comes
made-
down to the difference between fashion and style.
Yeah.
Fashion is what you buy, style is what you do with it. And I believe that's
Woo!
why.
Yeah.
I can claim that.
Iris Apfel.
I was just about to say, that's an Iris Apfel quote right there.
It is. It is. Yeah.
I think Wild said, I met her a few times. She was incredible. Just
yeah, incredible. You know what I love too? I worked in a museum with a textile collection. It was the Allentown Art Museum. I was an assistant curator, and I got lucky enough to be kind of the steward of the vault. And we had 12,000 pieces in the collection. They were from all over the world. But I think the best part about what was in that collection, I worked with a local embroidery guild, and I also worked with college students from Kutztown University. I personally loved a lot of the flower bags that they made into quilts. You know, it was the Depression, and people were cutting up the flower bag after they used the flower that was in it. And then the people that manufactured the flower bags started getting really smart and making really great prints because they knew it was being, you know, it was going to be made into a quilt eventually. So, I mean,
Aprons.
So much from our history guides us already in different ways that we can make differences. And it's, you know, sometimes it's just going back to history or the history in our family too, as many have said tonight. Those are good lessons. Maybe they weren't so fun growing up, but they are good lessons.
We have to develop the collective will to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the thing.
One of the things, even going back to World War II, when you think of the rationing, not only of consumables, but wool, cotton, leather, people would lose their shit at this point. And they said, oh, no, you can't buy shoes for 6 months because you've
used your
already
quota.
got
Yeah.
used your rations up.
Yeah.
And how do they phrase it? Use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I haven't heard that one. I'll have to remember that one.
New England, I think.
Yeah.
The Hayes era was in China, and they had to make so many alterations to fashion. There was a legal clause how deep cuffs could be, how wide lapels could be at the time to save as much cloth as possible. And at that point, we were using sustainable cloth, you know, wools, cottons, linens, silks.
Yeah.
Now we're using stuff that can't wash 15 hours.
Yeah. Petrol.
Here's you mentioned, Megan, you mentioned influencers and how they impact people buying stuff. One of the trends, and I don't know that it's real popular, my daughter probably hasn't seen it in her TikTok, but I've seen it in mine, is the idea of like a no spend year.
Yeah.
And some of those different things. Do you think that there's potential that where influencers or social media is causing a catalyst of creating the problem, that there might be veins and where that problem where solutions could come as well?
Influencers.
Yeah.
You'd be an influencer, but there are people that, you know, that's okay. No, there are people that do that. They get on and say, this is how I've done my year of no buying. Or my year of collecting my garbage and trying to be the smallest amount of garbage to do.
Yep.
So, you know, it's back to practice what you preach, and somebody will say, hey, I like what you're doing, how you doing it. Small steps, talk about it, but don't preach it in a way. You know, don't beat somebody over the head
Lead
about
in
it.
a way that others
Lead.
will follow you. Ruth
Yeah.
Bader Ginsburg
Yes,
saying.
yes.
Yeah.
You know, they'll leave away and they'll say, hey, I like that.
Now, one of the influencers I watch quite a bit, she's probably my favorite YouTuber. She does a decent amount about that. Like sometimes she will go on and buy some of the cheaper things, but the last probably 2 years, she started making her own clothes and she videos the process. So then you can kind of learn with her how to do it. And some of her stuff fails, but like she's one of the few that I have seen that's around my age that is starting to do that. And she has a really big following. So maybe it'll catch on.
Yeah.
I think it has. I think like as well, you know, there is like a little bit of a thing happening now called de-influencers, which
Oh, really?
Yes.
I love that.
yeah, they go on and they tell them, you know, they tell people that, hey, like this brand sucks, or you know, don't shop this, and they're kind of like picking holes, and they're like, like I saw one that was like, I'm de-influencing this skincare line because it actually does not do what they say they do. But I think that is also kind of taking off a little bit. So I think there is hope. I've also seen a lot about like the no spend year. My mom, a friend of mine, and I, we all did like a no spend like first of the year. So we did like 3 months, or we like didn't buy anything new. And it is shocking how much money you actually save, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, is this really where my money's going? Like, holy cow.
Olive oil on the face.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard. I've heard it works great.
Look at the Italian woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are
So,
many
and I
things-
think that's interesting.
That's what.
aside from fashion, there are so many areas that we could cut back in our lives
Mm-hmm.
and use simpler things from times past that have worked very well. And, we'll still continue to work today. Do I like the little $400 thing of La Mer that I use? Yeah. Will olive oil work too? Yeah.
The cheaper olive oil. You put the good stuff on the salad going inside. You put the cheap stuff on the outside. It all works.
Kind of like the vodka, right?
Yeah. You got it. You got it, exactly.
Clean your windows. We got a good group here.
I get my cosmopolitans and then the olive oil in my cookie, and there we go.
Yeah.
There's a magical elixir for life.
And we use the good stuff that'll clean your windows.
Oh man, I've got to say my takeaway from this tonight. I am using de-influencer tomorrow on my social.
That is good.
Yeah, that's very
One thing you
good.
have to remember.
Thank you for that, Megan.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
They're paid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can sit there and go, yeah, I'm an influencer by blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting paid to do that.
Yeah.
So we have to break that cycle where we follow along like little ducklings in a row behind what someone says, and force these companies where it's not lucrative for them to pay someone to say X is great and you should pay $80 for it, and it's $3 or 3 cents in actual cost to manufacture. And I'm all about a profit margin. Don't get me wrong.
That's a good point though, because breaking down the influence culture, because even when it's doing cultural heritage sites, for example, Blenheim Palace in the UK, that's the birthplace to Winston Churchill, they actually have marketing programs where they will pay influencers to fly all the way out there, take maybe 30 to 40 seconds of their videos, hashtag them, and then say bye-bye. To spend that much time, money, and energy and resources to fly people all over the globe to Blenheim for just a couple videos, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. There's a different way to connect with younger generations and different demographics, more marginalized demographics, than flying these people with Instagram accounts out, because we have books and books and books, reams of books, John Fox, for example, of how to do more effective community engagement. I mean, this room is a testament that you can connect with people from all different generations through art if you just break down different barriers, not flying out these influencers.
So I think you have a room full of followers. If you choose to become a de-influencer.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your research and your work.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you guys for listening.
So before I'm going to at least say goodbye to Megan, I have a
I'll
quick
let you
announcement.
move over here.
Exit stage right.
Yeah.
Sorry. All right, ma'am, I appreciate it. So I'm going to let you go here if you don't mind.
No, that's totally fine. Thank you again for having me, and it's been fun. So,
Absolutely.
care.
Don't be
Bye.
Thank you.
bye.